Well, it's nice to see so many people in this room to talk about a new world that's not like House of Dragons or Stepstones or whatever. So my name is Alisa Coleman. I am the COO of Abco Music and Records, Inc., and I'm the first person to say I don't know that much about the Metaverse. In fact, I'm not so sure if we say, what is the Metaverse or where is the Metaverse? But we have to, we're going to talk about syncing the Metaverse. And so I'd like my esteemed panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what they do.
My name is, can you hear me? Hello? My name is Keatly Haldeman. I am founder CEO of Dequency. We are building a decentralized peer-to-peer sync licensing marketplace. And we are primarily focused on sync licensing for Web3 media right now. So that is NFT art, metaverse content, on-chain games.
Hi, my name is Jess Furman. I head up licensing for Big Noise Music Group. I also am the co-founder of the Web3 Music Rights Group, which we just launched. If you guys are interested, ask me because we're going to do AMAs every month about that. I also am part of a DAO called Blue DAO, and we help women in non-binary hack basically all over the world. And I've gotten heavily into the metaverse space through that.
Hello, I'm Levi Downey. I am a music producer, but recently part of a project called Headless Chaos, which was a 77-person band that produced 45 songs in about 6 weeks and then released an NFT project that did really well. It was the top-selling music NFT project in June, and according to Billboard. And we found a way to collectively co-own a bunch of music together. And that creates some interesting challenges for moving that into the Web 2 current world. So excited to talk about that.
Hi, I am Joel Feinberg. I am CEO of DeWolf Music USA. We're a traditional publisher founded in 1909. So what am I doing in the metaverse? I'm here to talk about my experiences. My co-panelists are very, very deep into sort of the building of the metaverse. So my position here is to kind of talk about something that you might be more related to as someone entering into that space. So that's going to be my story. And my focus and why I got into it now is really for streaming in the metaverse, which I'm heavily involved in right now, and how these NFTs will be generating instantaneous loose-term royalties / microsyncs via playing through metaverse streamers.
Thanks. So that ties in with the first question for everybody in the room, which is how many people in this room think they know what the metaverse is? Wow, look at that. Now one hand up. That's great.
No one does.
No one really does.
No.
So it's a great question to start with. I guess, Keatly, why don't you tell us what your interpretation of the metaverse is?
So mine is more boring than some of the more philosophical definitions that are out there, probably just because I had to work on that for the licensing agreements that we have. So I had to actually make some legal language around it. So what we say it is it's virtual worlds. So it's digital virtual worlds. And that can be, and this is where we get a little loose. You know, the obvious ones are Decentraland and Sandbox and some of these that are actual, virtual worlds where you're getting together. We sort of say Twitter Spaces is also a virtual world as well because it's digital. But that is how I define it.
Well, so is Web3 the same thing as the metaverse?
No. The metaverse, actually there are many non-Web3 metaverses out there. Roblox is a metaverse. Fortnite is a metaverse. Minecraft is a metaverse. These are all metaverses that are not blockchain based. Where metaverse gets thrown into the Web3 conversation is those metaverses that are taking place on a public blockchain. And the blockchain element of it is really where the Web3 comes into it. Before the last couple of years, people just talked about it as blockchain and crypto. And now Web3 is used to talk about the next phase of the internet. There was Web 1, early days, that was basically read-only. Then Web 2 was read-write, which is Facebook and social media and UGC. And now we're in read-write-own, which is Web 3. And that is, the whole concept is that we can own digital assets and then we can transact them, whether that's information or whether that's pointing to an image. That was the NFT craze that kind of came up big. But there's all kinds of interesting uses that NFTs provide, and that's all encompassing in Web 3.
Well, thanks, because I actually thought I slept through Web 2. But it's good to know that I didn't, because I'm an avid Facebook, Instagram, and whatever. But just tell us, what are you doing in Web 3 Metaverse world today? What kind of things are you doing, Jess?
Gosh. So I guess I'll bring it back to licensing, because we're talking, this is a sync conference. And the big distinction between, really a metaverse, and that's a really great definition, is just your digital life, right? How do you experience your digital life? Are you on a Twitter space? Are you hopping into a video game? The distinction with Web3 is that it's just networked differently. It's not owned by private servers. And this is where it all kind of gets into something that you all care about, which is, what does licensing look like in a metaverse, right? Because we have predetermined negotiations that we've established for video games, right? What does it look like to have a video game that's shipped that's kind of an end-to-end thing? It's not evolving. What does it look like to sign into a video game that is on a private server, but it's evolving, right? So now it's not just one license because people are purchasing things. So with the metaverse in Web3, the distinction is that people can build it a little bit differently. There are a lot less parameters. So when we talk about music and creating in this new space, it's kind of uncharted territory, right? Like the Music Modernization Act that was passed in 2018 was about streaming. So we really don't have anything pre-established for what these negotiations are going to be dictated by, other than the deals that we're making.
Right. So, well, Levi, tell us though, is every metaverse something that needs a sync, or is it, and an NFT, is every NFT something that needs a sync? What are the variations?
Yeah, that's the 100 Bitcoin question, I guess, because there's really there's no clear definition, like Jess was just saying. There's really no clear legal decisions that have been made on what has to be considered a sync license and what doesn't. It's very clear, the law is very clear, but the uses that people are currently doing with NFTs, for example, are pretty widely varying, and can definitely be in hot water in some cases. That things are going to have to shift. But I think that one thing that's really important to remember is that because we're in such an emergent technology and emergent space, there are huge groups of people that are actively building faster than we have any ability to actually understand how to then use something like a sync license, like that has been defined for the last 120 years. So I think that the answer of should everything need a sync license? Not in the way that we consider a sync license now, I don't think. But definitely there needs to be an agreement between the rights holders and the people that are using it. And so using the actual intellectual property. But yeah, I always think this idea of Web3 is interesting, because you have this system that's kind of being built off in its own world, right? You have people who are actively trying to build something better than what currently exists today, something more efficient. And sometimes that's possible, and sometimes not. So right now I think we're seeing that collision of whether or not something needs to be done in the old way, or maybe there's a new way we can develop that could be better, like what Keatly is building.
Okay.
Let's hope.
Let's get a read of what the people in the room are interested in, what you're doing. How many people in the room are composers? Okay, great. How many people in the room are music supervisors or aspiring music supervisors? Okay. 3, 4. How many people are in the publishing world or the record label world? Okay, well, we have a good blend here. So, Joel, sync people. Sorry. And how many sync people? There we go. Okay. So, Joel, let's just talk about the composers and the publishers and the labels in the room. How is working with Web3 and the Metaverse going to help them either generate more money or collect more money, or how is it going to be a beneficial area for the development of the industry?
I don't want to predict that, but I can tell you what I'm doing right now that I think is going to be beneficial, and I'm in a sort of wait and see. But I think I got in pretty early with what I'm doing in my publishing company because, first of all, everyone knows what an NFT is, right? It's not a picture, it's a super file. It's the next generation of technology for file formats. And I think it should be thought of that way because I think a lot of people are just looking at, people selling these pictures and now they're selling pictures for much cheaper and now they're losing money and now it's a mess. It was always more than that. So for me, I was trying to figure out the technology and understand how that's going to affect my business in publishing. I was fortunate enough to sort of organically link up with some people that were already in development, have companies going on. And as it stands for me now, I've done some of that work as far as the NFTs as a picture and just to see how artists can grow in that space in Web3. But really for me, streaming was the issue because you can sell an NFT and build a fan base, but your fans can't take that music in the Metaverse or Web3 anywhere else and share that. That's part of their identity. When a fan loves your music, they take you in as a part of their identity. This is what I love, and I want to share this with other people. So for me, when I found out that I was already working with a company that was developing what they're calling a meta player, there's going to be other companies that are doing that. Essentially, this is music that's housed in the NFT technology in the file format. And the deals are, many have been done already. It's all getting ready for launch. What's going to happen in certain metaverses that have jumped on it, they take the code for this meta player and they attach it to their metaverse. So when you're in the metaverse, you're going to see a music player there. And very often the money is being paid for by the company that owns the metaverse. Some of them pay their users to play the game or whatever the experience is. Some don't. So what this player now does via smart contract, again, the NFT is just technology, right? So inside they have things that are called smart contracts. You can think about them like a macro where one command creates a bunch of different commands. So this smart contract now gives the ability for the artist and the publisher to instantaneously gain residuals based on streaming. Spotify could take months to a year to get your Spotify money. What happens here in these metaverses, there are thousands of metaverses also, by the way. I think a lot of people think of Facebook is the meta that everyone's waiting for. That's so not true. I mean, there are thousands that are live now. Many of them don't have music. They're dead silent. They don't understand the music industry, and now they're trying to catch up. It's going to take some time before things are worked out where it's very clean, even royalties. So this meta player, every time someone streams a song, that's going to have a residual, like a micro sync, basically. That's going to go directly to the artist's wallet or the publisher or whoever owns that. So when this is launched, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have a bunch of music in this. There's a bunch of metaverses that are already signed on. Looks like a whole bunch more have just signed on. And we have a bunch of music in there. So when it goes live, whoever listens, you're going to get micro syncs basically through this smart contract. But then people are going to be able to purchase these NFTs if they like them. If they like the song, they can purchase. This meta player has a credit. You can pay via credit card. And I think that's going to change a lot of things to onboard people that are, I don't want to deal with all this minutia just to get my NFT. What the heck is a crypto wallet? And all that stuff, that's not going to be around much longer as the technology advances. It's going to be more seamless. And I guess for me, I'm about a month away from this going live. And so just an interesting point in time. I've spent about a year in the space doing all sorts of different things, not in depth or as technical as what you guys are doing. These are the people I want to talk to learn more about what I can do with my publishing. But I did learn enough to know what lane I can excel in. And that's going to lead right into sync, what Keatly's doing, all sorts of different things with IP. One other thing is that it's probably happening with many companies. I know the company I'm working with currently, they're already reaching out to all the PROs, and they're already building into their NFT technology metadata for ISKI codes and all sorts of stuff. And it's the idea is to build it for the PROs so it makes it seamless for them to enter their information. It's not going to happen right away. You know, you're not going to get royalties in Web3, but you can get residuals based on streaming. And when that proof is sort of out there, then the PROs are going to want to join in, and you want to be able to welcome them with good technology and metadata that they can fill out and track easily. So that's what's getting me excited right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. I mean, primarily, my business is a record label, and as a music publisher, my concern is how the money filters down to our artists and our songwriters, whether it's in cryptocurrency, whether it's, you know, how the money is captured, what parts of the law things apply under. There are so many variations and mechanical sync licensing all over the world. This is a global, you know, exploitation in every single way, and each territory has its own rules and regulations as to what this type of thing classifies as. So, Jess, I mean, can you just speak to how you think somebody should address clearing? Let's just start with an NFT.
Yeah, so I'm really glad you asked me this question because I get on the music group side that I'm part of, what got me into this whole space earlier in the year was a lot of people coming to us wanting to do NFT campaigns with some of our artists, and I didn't know enough about it to really make a calculated negotiation or to understand the intricacies of it. So, you know, the mechanicals are important, the royalties, how that flow is important, but if you guys have artists and copyrights, you have to ask certain basic questions with an NFT project, right? Where is the NFT being stored? That's really important. There are a lot of platforms and marketers who are gonna wanna work with you, and you're gonna find out that it's on a privatized server. And that's the worst of any scenario. You ask about the secondary sales, right? Because everybody knows if my artist has a primary sale, an NFT, if you don't have access to it on secondary markets, you really can't have it go out in the world the way that you want. So there are a lot of platforms that will house your NFT with your artist on their own platform. And that's not what this technology can really do. That's not the promise of this technology. So I think the first step is if you're going to be doing any type of NFTs, and again, you know, you brought up a really good point, like what an NFT is. It's not just a visual image. Just think of it as a contract for how we get our media into spaces, right? And there's a visual element to a lot of these things, especially in a metaverse, but it's really just a contract. So you want to make sure that the minute you're deciding to have your music or your artist perform on a stage in a metaverse or have a single that's being sold in a metaverse, you want to be really clear on who has the rights to that NFT, what the resale looks like, where that market is, and then this is the nerdy part. Right now, you do have to ask what chain. You won't have to probably 10 years from now. No one will know that, right? You'll just do something, and behind the scenes, nerds will be moving things around. But unfortunately, now you do need to ask what chain, because that does actually restrict where your NFT can end up. As far as royalties and residuals go, I was part of some really scary conversations where certain metaverses were trying to make the case that there aren't public performance royalties because it's technically a meta plane, and on a meta plane, it's not subject to the same. Exactly. But I mean, we saw that with the DSPs. That was new technology, right? All of a sudden, we're celebrating 15% from Spotify, and what other industry does a product get made and you get shared back 15% when you put on all of the work and the effort? So this is a really important space to like make sure that you're negotiating hard and you understand the deals that you're entering into.
And just as a follow-up to that, so that was amazing, really focused on music NFTs. The thing that we're focused on is audiovisual NFTs and licensing music into audiovisual NFTs. You know, the first real popular use case was what's called PFPs, profile pics. That's the Bored Apes and all that. That's just static images. You know, that doesn't necessarily lend itself to music, but there are a lot of NFT projects that have motion graphics, motion visuals. FIFA just launched a whole campaign with moments from, you know, famous soccer shots throughout time. There's NBA Top Shots on Dapper Labs on Flow. We're working with somebody who's doing a dance NFT series with a couple of famous dancers where they did stop motion, and now there's animation around the actual dances, and of course they need music to dance to. So there's just all kinds of this interesting creative stuff going on, and when there is that marriage of visuals and and music, that's when a sync license needs to happen. And it's different than the blanket licenses that need to happen within the metaverse content, like the Decentraland bit that you're talking about. That's really public performance license, because it's...
Well, we got licenses for Sandbox. They paid for artists. Oh yeah, they tried to get away with gratis, and they ended up, on the publishing side, they gave us a license fee for the artist performing.
As a public performance.
On the sync license side. We actually got a fee for the sync for the artist performing our song in the metaverse.
And was it a sync and direct public performance license?
They had to pay both master side and pub side fees for using it, yeah.
But was it a synchronization fee and public performance fee? Like, was that language actually in there, or was it just a sync fee?
It might have been just a sync fee.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the conversation is going on in the Decentraland side of things, because there is this public performance right too. For us, because we have to right now, when music artists or music rights owners upload their content to Dequency, they are granting a direct public performance license to the people who are licensing the music, because it's the only way to get it done legally at this point. But then it's interesting, because there's some foreign PROs that are chiming in saying, well, you can't do that.
But are you doing the collect? So we were told actually that ASCAP is working on it during the deal that we had. I'm sorry if anybody's
They're sponsors. Okay.
But there's
No,
there's
and-
a ramp up time. If you think about
They're
hard
working on it.
They're doing
right
work.
Here.
They're doing
This
it. They're
is
doing
working
it.
on
it's happening. If you think about Facebook, remember how many years it took them just for the first pool of payouts? I mean, there was 8-10 years of just, it was just insane. So, I mean, it does take time.
Well, but let's also remember that we're not just, when we talk about PROs, it's nice to think, we all think about ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, GMR, but we're also talking about the master recording side of public performance, which in the United States is Sound Exchange and PPL overseas. And there are, again, as I mentioned before, there are different rules in different territories of the world. So all of these questions and all of the questions you ask when you do licensing are so important. And the answers about territorial and term. So again, let's really dig into the weeds. Levi, I'm telling you, you need to tell me, what is it that you want to know in order to make this happen? How are you going to make these deals? How, as a music supervisor, are you going to go to a publisher or a label and an artist, because sometimes there's an artist component on top of all of that, and how are you going to make it happen?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can speak from the music supervision side with too much authority, but what I will say is that I think the biggest challenge, and I think this is, Alisa, you've talked about this a bunch, is we're talking about like a cultural conflict in a lot of ways, like a group, most people like myself probably included in the Web3 space. I'm just so excited about the technology and how fast it's moving that we're building. We're building these new things, these new ways to own things. Which just sounds like such a, ethereal thing, but we really are. This is new technology that we're trying to find these ways to take advantage of. But the existing world is trying to, in a lot of ways, copy and paste the existing legal structures into this new space. And so we're getting a lot of conflict between people who are trying to co-own things together. For example, the reason why I'm bringing it up in this context is because the project that I recently launched with 77 other people is we co-own everything together. Everything from the visual to the code that was used for the smart contracts to the music itself. And so how do you get a sync license done with that context? That's pretty far beyond what we have an existing model for in our current how many of us here have a sync license agreement that could fit in 77 people, and all of their potential needs. So I think that I know I'm not really answering that in a clear way, because I think it's a really complicated situation where we're having, just at least what I was saying, what you have talked about a bunch is this, the speed at which DSPs moved into the space and weren't paying performance royalties, or maybe saving some money in case they get sued eventually once they're profitable, but not actually having a real plan in place for a license. So that's just really common in the technology space, right? It moves way faster than we have a legal
Always
construct
ask for forgiveness, but then pay up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's just kind of the way the world, it just moves at this rapid pace, and we can't hold it back. But yet there are things that go on in this country that specifically in the United States, like the DMCA, which is, you know, in the drastic need of overhaul to protect the rights of writers and publishers and artists and labels, and also will factor in greatly to this new environment and this new space. So we can't create laws fast enough to keep up with the technological environment. We have to be nimble enough in making sure that our licensing schemes can work retroactively and forward. So.
Precisely. I'm staying in Web3 right now, so even whatever revenue is going to be generated would be crypto that would be converted. I know that we're transitioning out of Web2, but for me, in my mind, it's more like bridging the two. Like Web2 is in real life is never going away.
We're never going to be totally Web3.
No,
We're just going to integrate
there'll
tech.
be more.
There's no way.
Once they're bridged completely, then I think traditional licensing will have a way to come in. I mean, Instagram right now, you can put your PFP NFTs now as your profile. Twitter's got that. I mean, it's just a matter of time before music starts piping in, or any other functionality of an NFT is going to be integrated into Web 2. So I don't think it's a destruction of Web 2, and I think that's the opportunity now for companies like yours and everybody else to try to work with real life PROs to get them, like, they're not going to do anything for a while, but if they know that you're working in their best interest so that you can onboard them in a seamless way, I think that's a really good thing to do. Instead of just abandoning that, it's going to create a clash, and the technology is going to create a gap, a legal gap that doesn't need to happen, really. So there's going to be a delay. There's just going to be a delay in some rights until the tech.
Look, as a publisher, I can tell you we're used to delays. Look at the CRB. I mean, we just can't catch a break and catch up quick enough. So, and we're used to like waiting years and years to collect for money overseas and things like that. But we have an opportunity here, and everybody on this panel has an opportunity to really be vocal about how we can get it to jump off correctly. What steps we can take to get everybody on the same page, and to start companies like yours that are developing places for people to actually sell and monetize their products is the perfect place to start. You know, there are things that we can all do together to make sure this goes in the right trajectory, and everybody has the same goal.
Well, and I would say too, like, you know, so like I mentioned the Web3 Music Rights Group that we started, and it started off as a think tank. Deborah Manis-Gardner had posted in Think This about a negotiation she was doing with an NFT, and we've been meeting fairly regularly, and we've been gathering different groups together, and we're going to start opening it up. But this is, you know, I'm coming less from like building the business side solution, and more from what I learned in my Sona days, which is we have to get ahead of the conversation, but we also have to all get in a room together and start to really understand the bargaining power that we have and what rights we need to be negotiating on behalf of. So I think that's also another powerful thing, is if enough people know, no, I'm gonna hold the line here. This actually is worth this thing. This shouldn't be a blanket license. This should be a right that we maintain here. It's gonna be a lot easier with confidence to know that you have a network of people that are doing that.
And then from my perspective, I'm having a lot of conversations with music industry, music rights owners, catalogs, labels, independent artists, and then the Web3 media content producers, and both sides don't know how to do this. Like there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of crypto curious people on the traditional industry side, and then it's the Web3 media producers that are obviously pushing that envelope. And there's some royalty-free libraries out there where they could get it done, but the music is limited in that capacity. And so if they want to go license commercial artists and more established artists and rights, how is that going to get done? And that's what we're actively involved in, having those conversations, developing those tools.
Well, I love that. How many people in this room are crypto curious? I think that is like the best line yet. So does anybody have any questions for our panelists? In the back.
protect myself as a creator right now to not hurt myself and anybody else in the community and be backed by something that we know we need to evolve on? I know it's a general thing, but I think we really need to think about this.
Yeah, I mean, I have a very personal opinion on that, and I think this is just a massive experiment. And you know, we're all playing, and when you go camping and you go hike, you might get bruised, you might get cut, and you might get hurt even more. But do you not want to go have that experience? Do you not want to go places that, you know, people haven't been before, or it's hard to get to? I think we as a human species are adventurers and pioneers, and so we're drawn to finding that next frontier. So I think don't be afraid. You're not going to hurt yourself. I mean, there are major companies and major artists who are diving in the same way, and the only way to figure it out is to get into the fray and figure it out.
Well, but I'd also say, like, don't be afraid to ask questions, right? So don't accept the deal that they're handing you, because it is the Wild West, right? If it doesn't feel right, there's probably 50 other, you can get on Telegram, you can get on Twitter, someone will give you a better deal. Like, that is the benefit of this, right? So always scroll down and look for the fine point. You'll find the print, you'll find it somewhere, right? It'll be, you know, and know what questions to ask. Who's gonna own this? What chain is it gonna be on? What does it look like for primary sales, secondary sales? What usages do you have? Like, even these NFTs have commercial licenses attached to them. You'd be surprised how many you don't, right? Like, what were the use licenses for Headless? You guys had licenses for Chaos.
We did,
Chaos,
yeah, and that's what I was just gonna say about that. Again, back to that cultural difference is that it's okay to ask for a contract. Like, I know a lot of these organizations and groups that are like all Web3 funded, like they have this kind of like chip on their shoulder sometimes about like working in traditional legal realms. But like, if it's your IP and the only way you're comfortable with having them use it is to have an agreement, like get an agreement in place. George Howard, who I know that Keatly you work with, has this great quote of like, a smart contract is not a contract and it's not smart. So it's like, even though an NFT might have a smart contract attached, like you still need traditional legal protections. So yeah, don't be afraid to get an actual deal.
And your music is still protected, by the way. You can, if something happened in Web3, you still own your music in the real world. I mean, your intellectual property is still something you can defend in real life. You just have to find them, depending on where they are in the world.
And
Yes. 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 It's all artist driven at this point because it's so focused in the major label world. It's still focused on, you know, Snoop Dogg's promotion, and it's a lot. It's very much that in that space, in that way right now. It's not been the mass market of like a DSP of a streaming environment yet, but it's getting there. I mean, we had talked in the green room about Audius a little bit, and you know how they launched a streaming platform that was cryptocurrency based, and they tried to get around not having mechanical licenses because they thought, well, we're only collecting cryptocurrency. Well, so, excuse me, I want to curse, but so, you know, why not? They still have to pay writers and publishers and artists and labels and everybody that's involved in it. So it is happening. It's still bubbling, okay? But then, for example, I had a conference call last week with Fortnite, and I said to them, do you consider yourself to be part of the metaverse? And they said, no. So, like, you know, everybody has different layers.
Well, and Wendy, you asked if it was to like solve this problem, and it's not to solve the problem. There's a lot of money being thrown around to make money on the new technology, not solve the problem, right? Because it's not their problem. So I think that the issue is when you see things crop up, when you see streaming services, we all remember like Napster, Kazaa, like we remember Spotify and Pandora. Did they crop up to help copyright holders? No, they saw an opportunity to get a product for free and not have to pay for it. So this is no different in this space. There's a lot of money being thrown around, not at the problem, but at taking advantage of the new technology. So when you see platforms, you guys have to do your due diligence.
And
Scroll
again,
down.
the biggest problem with this, in my mind, is that we don't have the same legal recourse because of the DMCA, and that it's our problem. It's not their problem. It's our problem. We have to police it. We have to look for it. We have to take it down. And until we change the rules and the regulations of the DMCA, it is going to continue to be our problem. And as this world expands, it's bigger and bigger challenge. No company has a budget to manage and police this the way that it needs to be policed. So there's a question in the back. Yes.
I'm a manager, and my background is in sync, and I'm actually very happy to hear this conversation. And I'm sorry, I'm just beginning a little bit. Forgive me, I'm just repetitive, but I'm wondering if you think that there is a lack of communication or an understanding on both sides in getting these deals done and making change and making people understand that there is money for creatives here. But in order to actually help them, I think the people with the money need to understand that there are so many aspects to owning a master or like owning a single. Like there are so many different streams of income that affects. And I just am wondering on your end, like you guys are obviously in it, is there a miscommunication or like a lack of understanding or awareness as to where they're coming from? And is that something that we as community of creators and for helping creators can help to better understand and like better see each other and what we're trying to do? Because not every artist has the ability to have a lawyer really look at these contracts and be like, this is a red flag and you might not be helping you in the way that you think this is helping you. In the sense of you might get this big chunk of money, you're gonna have to pay taxes on it, you're gonna have to do this, you're gonna have to do this, and at the end of the day, you might only be netting this much money, you know, and not everybody has that access. So I just feel like, is there, you think, a lack of awareness or understanding on both sides, on the creative and on the people with the money, the tech people, to, you know, make this better? Because I do think there is some strife sometimes with people are like, all these people that don't understand it. I mean, I'm sorry, Graham, but I'm in a deal right now, and so I'm trying to understand if you guys are the experts, and you think that there is something.
Well, you missed the beginning where I said I don't know anything about
Yeah,
this.
no
okay?
one knows.
There's no expert. There's no expert in the
There's
space
no
yet.
experts anywhere.
I know, and then I think that a lot of the conversation is that tech companies don't care, and like, that's all fine and well, but we're all human at the end of the day, and you have money and interest at
I've met with some huge tech companies on the Web3 side, and they have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't.
It's
They don't. They
amazing.
just don't
Just don't
know.
know.
Yeah, they don't
Amazing.
know.
But they want to. Like
Not all of them.
The few that I've met with, they're taking
Yeah.
the meeting with me because they want to,
Yeah.
but they're telling me they want to, and they're at least starting to hire music people to address this problem. It's probably they don't care that much. They just don't want to get sued, which is great.
We have a question over here.
So it's a two-part question, but I think it addresses some of the other issues. So the first part is this. How often do you guys have communications with the coders that are creating smart contracts? I'm a music attorney, and I've been having meetings with coders going, if you're creating these defense statements, what's important to you? And they're like, we don't really know what we're doing. We just get what's provided, and then we do it. And I'm like, well, what about reversion rights? We need to know about that up front, because if we don't code it right from the beginning and then it's on the blockchain and glitches forever, they can't unring that bell. So the conversations that we're having is there really does need to be a forum between the coders creating the smart contracts and that. So the question is, how often is there that communication? And then question number two also relates to what was discussed. So I've had deep conversations with ASCAP, BMI, GMR, and CSAC as to what does that blanket performance license look like with Metaverse. And it varies. ASCAP are like blanket license, we'll deal with it later, here it is, but it's a percentage of your gross. BMI, we're going to charge if, you know, if it's a ticketed event or if it's just public, and if you're doing both, there's a double charge. And GMR, it's confidential, you have to do it on a case-by-case basis, you know, pretty much same deal. So in that context, when I did it on behalf of the client, and I'm a music attorney calling them up, doing the right thing, it would have been about 20% of client was like, we actually can't afford 20% of our gross, not net, gross. We're gonna have to go out and hire custom music. They wanted to do the right thing, but 20% of their gross, not including everybody else that they're paying for, the platform itself, the gas for Ethereum, all of these charges. And by the way, this is just the US, geofencing just the US, because outside the US there's different laws. It was actually cost prohibitive for them to do the right thing. So I'm a solutions thinker. I think we should have these forums and communications. But to that end, do you have any proposed solutions just so we can get that conversation going and do it well? So again, who's talking to the coders about what the smart
If I could take the smart contract, because it's the nerdy stuff that I know pretty well. I do deal with coders all the time. I'm going to be down with hundreds of coders down in Columbia next week. Like, I will tell you from personal experience, I go to a bunch of hackathons. They just want, it's what you said, they just want to build cool shit. They are not thinking about it, right? So when it comes to a smart contract, the important thing is that it's not a contract, it's an execution, right, of commands. So we're calling it a contract and everyone's getting caught up on it, but it's not a contract. You're putting into an equation how it's going to execute. So you're saying you get 10%, you get 20%, you get this percent, and that's what the smart contract says. So the contracts themselves, like, they don't dictate, that's why they don't really have any bearing, like legal bearing at the moment, because they're really just executionary documents of an agreement, right?
It's the accounting.
Yes.
This, then
Correct. Yes. So, yeah. So when coders are making things and it's not working, it's because they probably just came up with it themselves, and they're like, "This could be fun." Tell me I'm wrong, right? You agree?
Yeah.
They're just like jamming with code, like you would. They're like musicians. That's like the coolest thing I've learned about the hacker community is we all go into a room and we're making music, which is my background, and you do the same thing. They all get together and they're like, "Oh, let's hack." That's what a hackathon is. Like they literally sit there and code things. No contracts, nothing. It's wild. So I would say you have to know what you're putting into the smart contract and stop thinking of a smart contract as a contract. As for the second thing, I mean, that's kind of like the age-old, I feel like, problem you have when you're negotiating anyways, right? Like, how much is this copyright going to be worth? How much do I think I can get based on the value of the artist, based on the people that are involved, based on the usage terms? I don't think we're ever going to solve that necessarily. This space is no different.
I really appreciate that question and the info about how BMI versus ASCAP handle the license is really fascinating. I do not know a lot of that, but I want to be aware of it because one of the things that to your question and also maybe to the woman in the back's question too about this unknown and this lack of information sharing. I think that there is like this underlying piece of Web3 that's really inspiring to me. Why I'm involved in that space, in this space, is because it's a real shift between the ownership of what is being created. So we have the actual, we have the platforms like Facebook, Amazon, Google, right? Who owns that? The shareholders of that public corporation, right? So it's like a profit-focused organization. With Web3, we have the actual, the opportunity at least, this isn't always the case, but we have the opportunity for the owners of the organization to be the participants in the organization. So in this example of this person that you're talking with who was building a smart contract and you brought, this idea to the table of, well, you may want to have a reversion clause in the contract itself, like that type of conversation is going to be happening more, I hope, and I think, in these types of organizations where, like in, for example, the project I was working on, where we have, meetings every day with the developers, the designers, and the creators of the music, all focused on this one output together. And it's not just like we're being hired by some company to do it. It's like we're part of this startup essentially that we all co-own together. So. Anyways, I just wanted to share that.
Remember that when Spotify launched, that the record labels all took a piece of Spotify before it became a public corporation because they were helping to grow that business and that was part of their revenue. I anticipate that you'll have similar deal structures when you look at things in the future because everybody's going to want to taste. Hunter, yeah.
How do you guys foresee like music supervision or music writers kind of approaching this space? As you guys kind of see how there's a lot of questions about how things get licensed and the legal navigation from the label and publishing side and feeling frustrations with maybe like the people who are creating the metaverse
Well, I mean, there's a huge place for music supervisors if they're creating specific types of content, rather than music supervision within the DSP structure. There's still music supervisors in the DSP structure for music supervisors on audio podcasts all the time. Okay, so there's always going to be that growth potential for people to add their knowledge and their expertise to the way and the taste making. I mean, that's what music, to me, that's what music supervisors do. They help build the taste making, the knowledge, the branding of a particular thing. And they'll still continue to be able to do that in a Web3 or a metaverse.
You're seeing that in entertainment where there'll be a TV show, a sci-fi TV show with a metaverse component for fans to go in there and explore more of that story in that world. I mean, it's gonna take some time, but TV shows will be full-on experience shows. There's gonna be a time where some network or streaming or streamer that has a lot of money is gonna just take the risk and make a show in the metaverse.
And it's like advertising. I mean, before internet advertising was a thing, it was just TV commercial advertising, and it was simple. It's what's the territory, what's the length, all that. And then all of a sudden, they started slipping in internet. And then rights owners had to be like, wait, what's that thing? And in the beginning, it's like, hey, well, we're not actually making that much money, so it was a little tiny bit of it. And then now you fast forward today, and you can get online-only commercials that are very, very lucrative, right? And so I think that's also what's going to happen in this space too, is people are going to slip it in, or it's going to be, metaverse only or whatever.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to slip it in, quite honestly, because I think everybody's pretty much aware. And
Great.
From everything.
So then we're already past that. But then how do you value that?
Right. I think that in the general scheme of things, it will come to be licensed in a norm. We will reach a norm. We will reach a level set. There will be thresholds, and we'll figure it out. It's just we're not there yet. Because it's like when people talked about blockchain and nobody could see or feel or understand what blockchain is, we're still there. There hasn't been a proliferation of experience for people to say, I know what that is. I can understand what it is. Because
and there's not enough money yet, really.
I mean,
it's coming. It's just not there yet as a whole.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for sharing all your information. I'm coming from the perspective of a songwriter, and I'm just wondering, for those of us that are in the room that are creators, content creators, like where do we start? Just like basic, 101, like where would you get started in this space? Like would you look to get a deal with you, or I don't know how you get started.
Go to Water and Music.
Yeah.
Water and
Water and
Music
Music,
is an
yeah.
amazing group. Water and Music. Yeah, they have the best research on music and Web3. They just put out a massive, it was number 2, season 2, so they have season 1, 1.5, and season 2, and it's very detailed, deep dive, tells you specific tools, things to look out for.
Yeah, because I've looked into this space, and it's so confusing that I don't even know where to start.
So I will say Water Music DAO is great. It is very heady. So if that's not where your brain is, so DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, it sounds like something from outer space, but it's really just a cool club that uses some Web3 technology. So I would suggest you look up DAO, DAO, DAOs that are specifically around music, because basically what they are is they're community spaces. If you don't have Telegram, you're gonna have to get on Telegram. It's one more thing to download. It sucks. I hate using it, but it's where all the cool kids hang out, and it's where you're gonna get the best advice. But I would look up DAOs, look up creator DAOs. Water and Music is great. I would ask people in Water and Music if they can point you to people that are a little less technical, but they do great analysis. The research is incredible, but
Get into the Discord, and then you can ask those questions.
yeah,
there.
you can also ask, but ask for
Very
other,
friendly people.
ask for other communities, and that kind of goes back to your question as well as a supervisor. Like, you utilize your community, right? Like, don't do this. You're not doing this in a vacuum. The questions you have, everyone else has.
You guys talk about utility as well, maybe for everybody that doesn't know what that is, NFT utility.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, that's like the big question where I think it's very common. Like anyone in the early stages of like learning what an NFT is, everyone's even as like a songwriter, you're like, so now my music's attached to this NFT. So what? Like it's just like a file everyone can see. what does it actually give me? And that's the idea of like utility, right? Like everyone's always asking, like, what is this NFT unlocking the ability to do that I couldn't do without it? And so I think that's really overlaps with a lot of other questions and things we've been talking about of what is the actual value of learning this complicated system. And really I think what it boils down to is having the ability to actually own something digitally and prove the existence of an actual item digitally. That unlocks so many things. I'd be really curious to see what you guys think.
Well, but utility
to do
in
as
its like form itself is like sweepstake prizes. So if someone's like, here's your NFT and there's utility attached to it, it means you get to go to Coachella for free and you get to this, you get to that. It's all the things you get by owning that thing. And that is something you can do if you're leveraging the copyrights. You don't just have to sell the song that you have. And a lot of the most successful campaigns don't. They actually are attached to they attach utility to it. They make it attractive. So if you buy it, or if we sell out, say 1,000, at that point it unlocks the next level of, and they'll say utility. Thank you for bringing that up. But all utility is just prizes.
Yeah, and it's just, is it a collectible only, or is it an NFT with utility to it? And that utility, if you're putting it out as a creator, it's whatever you want to give. You know, you're doing a custom remix for them. It's a whitelist to the show. They get to hear the song before anyone else gets to hear it. It's a meet and greet. It's like literally any value you think that you can provide to people. And it all comes down to, why is someone buying this NFT? And you know, some people will buy just for the collectible. I think if you add utility, it now becomes more obvious why someone might want to buy it.
Yeah, and part of that is doing the marketing work. It's basically like music industry back in the 80s, but you're digital now, and you have to go out into Twitter and into the Web3 spaces on Discord and really get your presence and do your marketing and join conversations that are happening about music NFTs and artists. There's tons of it's evolving quickly. I mean, it's advanced almost at this point. But you can join any of those conversations, and you actually, a lot of it is really pitching your stuff and getting a whole new fan base. And then the utility that you can think of, that would be sort of an incentive, but you want to perform. It's really just starting over in a new space, and you just have to go and market yourself. And utility is a great way to do that.
Okay, any more questions? Yes. How much is a Basquiat worth? Okay, it's the same. It's the same. It's
Or
the
1950
price
whatever
the
Mickey
mar-
Mantle
it's-
baseball card.
Right. It's the resale value is the price the market will bear. Okay, and it's gonna always be that way. It's like art. Okay, it is art. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. It is gonna, what you own is gonna have a value based upon what it is, even with crypto going up and down and up and down. What the value, your intrinsic value of what you paid for it based on the decline of cryptocurrency is different than what the value of the NFT is, which is how much cryptocurrency somebody is willing to pay today for that same NFT. That's the difference.
With that said, I have I don't know, a strong guess that we've reached a phase. I'm only speaking about music NFTs right now because I've been through all that. I was with an artist. We sold out our NFTs and we did all that and did all the, I wanted to learn the lingo. This is early on when I was getting into it. I was like, I better just go in the dirt with everybody else on Twitter and just see what happens. And I learned a lot, and it was great. And I didn't want to get into the repetitive business of getting the next NFT ready for sale and doing all the marketing and all the stuff you have to do. It's a lot of time. But I do have a hope that I think that for me personally, maybe because I'm just involved in it and that's all I know, but for me, streaming, I think, is the next evolution for the music NFT artist and holder. Because once somebody can take that music and share it with somebody else in a metaverse or somewhere else. Right now, you buy a music NFT, what are you going to do with it? You can put it on they have like a couple players out there. You really can't. Again, it's for fans, it's their identity, right? So, and for the artist as well, once people can stream that, then you can send your army out, get people to play the song out in the metaverse. And as the streams pop up, it's going to be very much like the real world. The popularity of the music might grow, and the value of the NFT might grow as well. But for me, that's a real value. You know what I mean? Because that's actual proof that this song is increasing in value as listenership is growing. Right now, that's not possible, but I think we're very close to listenership growing for a music NFT within Web3 space that will go cross-chain, that will go everywhere, and you'll see breakout stars now. It won't just be, Method Man coming in.
I mean, if the splits are better, if the splits in the streaming world and the metaverse do not mirror anything having to do with what we see for streaming profits, then I agree with you.
Right. I don't know everything. I'm just
Well,
the
you have
value.
a streaming company, so what is
Well,
that?
I don't have a streaming. I'm partnered with one right now
Cool.
that's
Yeah. So,
doing this.
so what is their split? Like, what would their split be like compared to say Spotify?
They take 5%. That's it.
See? So that's what I mean. That's a better model.
95%
That's what
goes
I mean.
right to
So
the artist on
if
every
you're
stream.
shifting the model in that thing, then streaming does work. Otherwise,
Yeah, they're-
downloading
yeah,
is
they're
still
on-
better.
they're on board.
See?
But to your question though, the way the market went, as everyone's probably seen, we now know that this NFT boom that kind of led to this very big bull market and prices for cryptos in general, they don't exist in a vacuum, right? The world economy dips, so do crypto prices, and so then the frothiness and the excitement of the projects that use cryptocurrency, that wanes a little bit as well. But it's really fascinating right now. There's 70, 80 people in this room all interested in this space. And that's the people that are interested in building right now when there's not this get lucky, get rich quick moments happening left and right. Like that's the community of people that you should be watching and building with. Because they see some value outside of this speculative put money in, get rich kind of thing. That'd be my only advice is look for the people that are building right now and not just trying to get a bunch of money really quickly.
Okay. Well, we thank you. I think I've learned a lot today. I hope you've learned a lot, that we can at least know what the difference is between Web3 and the metaverse. But thank you all for coming, and nice to see you.
Thank you. Oh, actually, do we have a slide? Do you have the POAP slide by chance? There's does anyone know what a POAP is? Raise your hand. Yeah? Cool. Well, we do have a POAP for this panel. So this I thought would be a fun way to introduce anyone who's never actually used a wallet, a crypto wallet. It's kind of a fun thing. Basically, it's an NFT that hopefully we have it. I'll maybe email it to all the people who attended this one somehow if we don't have it up. Anyways, while they're pulling that up, essentially what you do is you take a scan of a QR code, and it sends you to a kind of a secret website. And since a lot of us probably don't have wallets, but you can save this for when you do create a wallet. You claim the token. We only have 77, so act quick if there's 78 people in here. But basically, once you claim it, it's an on-chain transaction linked to you. So this could be your first, on-chain NFT. Yeah.
You'll get a badge. You'll get a cool little badge you can collect everywhere. They have things like this. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's a thing. I'm taking my son to the Slipknot concert next week, which I'm actually very excited about. And Live Nation sent essentially a POAP, and they don't call it a POAP, but that's what it is. And so it's being incorporated in the real world as a collectible. It's your ticket stub.
It's cool. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Eventually, I see
Digital ticket stub.
digital ticket stub. Imagine a world where, remember how the Grateful Dead used to,
How many people keep their stuff in their wallet?
yeah.
And then people show off their POAP collection so they can
POAP
flex and say,
collections.
look where all this
Yep.
all all these cool parties I've been to.
I think eventually the NFT technology, I'm sorry, you'll be able to have your ticket stub in NFT form, and you may actually get a clip from the concert that embedded into that NFT. So, instead of, the shoebox with all the concerts you've been to, all the ticket stubs, that very well could be down the road digital tickets that actually have footage from that experience and all that stuff embedded. It's all part of that super file that I'm talking about, the NFT.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.